All right. Um, cool. So, first time talking about this, and actually, I was interviewed last week, and it was for a paid newsletter, and it was one of the first times that I had been asked about investing in music and royalties, and it was funny. It was like one of the first times in years that I've been on an interview and I had to tell the person like, okay, like, well, this is off the record, and I want to keep this part a secret. I'm not trying to share that, and so I've really been doing the same thing for 20 years, and so it was weird for the first time to start to get asked stuff and realize like, yeah, this is kind of proprietary. I'm doing a ton of research to find this out, doing a lot of work, risking my own money. And so I'm not really trying to have everybody know about this. But I do realize that there were some things that I was willing to share. And I just basically kind of put it all under the category of, hey, I'm not willing to talk about this, and realized that in that interview, well, there's certain aspects of it that I think are it's important for people to understand that this is a possibility. So I wanted to run through kind of all of the digital assets that we invest in, talk about some pros and cons, introduce this new asset that actually is one of my favorites under that royalty category. And then we'll get into some questions and answers. So as you pop in, please hit the like button. As you know, I do these kind of spare the moment. It helps other folks know. I do want to start to do some where I announce it ahead of time, but please hit the like button. And also, if you want to plug in any questions, feel free to put those in. We already got Sherry. What is up? Thank you so much for popping in. Thank you for the like. Bryce, what's up? Good day to you. Thanks for popping in. Feel free to put any questions in, and we'll go through those at the end. So let's talk digital assets. The most common one that I bought literally 20 years ago are websites, and we know they generate income, whether it's ads, whether it's e-commerce by selling to the consumer, whether it's SaaS, which is typically going to be B2B, and so they have these different sources of income. Now, the biggest downside to those that's happened, especially in these recent years, is when you have a website and you're generating a certain amount of income, you've got to bring those customers back to your website in order to continue making money off of them. And that's become more and more difficult over the years. Back in the day, there just weren't many websites. There weren't many options. So people were always kind of, if they got online, were coming back. And once they found one that they like, now there's this fight for attention. And so we've become more dependent on email to bring them back to the website. We've become more dependent on things like pixels, where we have to advertise to folks to get them back to the website. And so all of that ends up being more costly, whether it's those things or even SEO. Like a lot of times people act like SEO is free, but no, SEO costs money. You've got to either the writing yourself, which costs you time. You've got to pay somebody else to do the articles, the backlinks, all of those things. So the power of websites is that they're completely scalable. You can trade them and sell them with anyone in the world. And that's what's kind of led to some of the increase in multiples. The second category of digital assets that we buy and sell have been social media. And when it comes to social media, again, we've seen this a little bit of the deterioration of the value of those accounts. And so when I'm talking about social media, I'm really talking about buying the accounts. So like you would buy an Instagram account, you would buy a Twitter account, YouTube account, whatever. And so there's a lot of value there because they have the followers, they've got a certain amount of engagement. And if you have a product or service in a website and you combine that with the social media account, that can just cause some really explosive growth. Well, what we're seeing in the last few years is that now if you buy one of those accounts, you're still having to pay to reach the audience. So before, back in the day, you could do a deal on a Facebook group, and when you put out a post, like the people that said, "Hey, I want to hear from this group," or "I want to hear from this page," literally don't see it because Facebook obviously wants you to pay. They want you to pay to reach your own audience, and that makes that value really decrease because you're basically paying for the opportunity to pay again to reach that audience. So that's what we've seen. And we already knew before that we've got the things like platform risk. So we're always considering, when it comes to platform risk, just what's the new thing? Is Snapchat going to overtake Vine? And is Periscope going to disappear? And, just those kinds of things. Is TikTok going to outperform Instagram? So you've got all of those platform risks that you just have no control over. And then you've got attention risk, which is kind of the basics around having enough posts or enough interesting things going on to have people engaged, because there's always some new account that's going to come up if you buy an account, and in that same category someone else ends up doing something better, essentially, and taking that attention, then it also can decrease the value in that social media account. So one of the newer ones outside of these is the digital assets and the podcast space. And, it's just last week, I talked to two different people that have recently acquired podcasts. And I think I'm going on one of the podcasts that was acquired. So that'll be kind of cool. But one of the things that I am a big fan of when it comes to the podcast is that there's a huge trend towards listening. Even when it comes to YouTube videos, people aren't watching the video as much as listening. And I think that's going to spike up even more when things open up after COVID, because right now people are watching a little bit more. Everybody's stuck in the house. And so this impacts everything. So it impacts websites, it impacts social media, it impacts YouTube. And then, it's a positive for podcasts, but for the other mediums, there's less motivation for people to sit and look at something. And I'm sure for most of you that are watching this right now, it's easy for you to just go on a run, listen to a podcast, same for Audible, all of those kinds of things. And so there's just a huge trend towards listening versus looking. And, that's definitely a positive when it comes to podcasts. Hey, thanks for popping in. Don't forget to like the and put your questions in. Adam, what's going on? Thanks for the comment. So when it comes to podcasts, that's the big positive. The downside is, for the most part, you're only going to listen once. There are very, very few instances, unless I was going back because there was a tip on something and I'm trying to get the website or whatever it is. There's just very few instances where I'm going to listen to a podcast twice. So that's a downside, because you're on this treadmill where you've always got to have the next thing. The other big downside is that it's a new medium, and so monetization isn't mature. And so, if you have a podcast and it's growing, and you have this one podcast that goes viral and you got all this audience, you have to go after the fact and sell that to the potential advertisers. You've got to go to those advertisers, and if you listen to podcasts, there's certain folks that they go really heavy into all the podcasts. Blue Chew is one of them, which I won't even go into what Blue Chew does. I guess you can talk about it because it's on all the podcasts, but it's a Viagra type supplement. And so I think it may be tough for them to advertise in other mediums, but they can advertise on podcasts. So you have this viral podcast, you get a bunch of listeners. Now you have to go after the fact, show those numbers, And it's just a lot more difficult process to do that work, to find the advertiser, to sign them up. Now you got to hope that the numbers still stay high for the future episodes. And in order to monetize that, it's difficult. It's difficult to monetize the listeners on the podcast. And sometimes those older podcasts have diminishing value because there's something psychological for people, when they're going to podcasts, if they want to hear the most recent ones, they don't really want to go back a year, whatever. And so all of that takes us to music. And so, one of the investments that, as you guys know, I talk a lot about royalties. And, obviously we do invest in those. And when it comes to internet businesses, and there's just a whole, when it comes to YouTube, when it comes to a lot of these things, there's just tremendous opportunities in this space. And the benefit of the royalties there is that it's a immature industry. And so there's kind of an arbitrage in multiples and that kind of thing. But it's literally the opposite when it comes to digital music. So some of the advantages here is it also takes advantage of the listening trend. So as people are doing more listening, able to go to what they want to listen to, and kind of doing whatever they want while they listen, like a podcast, obviously it definitely takes advantage of that listening trend. And it's more the fact that people are going to listen more as time continues. Where they are listening instead of being in front of a laptop or like actually looking at their phone. They're just going through life. And so the music actually, definitely benefits from that. Obviously, the other one is that's really, really big is unlike podcasts. It takes advantage of the listening trend, but people listen more than once. So while I would not listen to a podcast or, listen in the background to a YouTube video like 10 times, like there's songs, like when it comes to songs, you're gonna you like the song, you're gonna listen to it multiple times. You're gonna listen to it 2 years from now when you think about it and it's like the right time, it becomes this thing that is a long-term part of your life. And so again, even going back to the website where you've got that person that visits your website and you've got to convince them to come back to that website. And it really takes a lot of work of, emailing them, and emails aren't being read as much, and pixeling them, and now you've got to pay to get them back. When it comes to a song, you build that fan, whereas the website, they could really be a fan. But if your site isn't Facebook or Reddit or Instagram, like they're just not coming back that often. When it comes to a song, you can have a very small group of fans that just love it and they're running up your streams. And so that becomes this really powerful thing. And then you combine those two, and there's, I've got just a whole lot of things that I've learned this year as we're doing these deals. But you come to you multiply those things by the fact that the monetization is mature and easy. You think about writing a blog and you've got this piece of work, and somebody could just take it and put it on their blog, and you've got to search it down and see, ask them to take it down, or they just edit it a little bit, and there's really no way for you to make money off of that moving around. Or a YouTube video or a podcast where, like we said, the monetization is very clunky and very difficult. When it comes to music, it's very mature. It's literally the opposite. And now there are, if you want to imagine it almost like a robot, it's like a autonomous robot that just follows your song around, or a musician's song around, and lets them know, hey, this money needs to go back to these people that are investors in this royalty. And so, the musician may get some, the writer may get some, if there's an investor, like we're investing, we'll get some. And so it's almost like a magical digital asset. It's almost crazy that, as we've been doing this, is like, it's kind of weird that more people aren't doing this, but hey, we'll take it. So it's a really beautiful digital asset that combines a lot of the benefits of the new digital assets, but because it's so mature, and a lot of people complain about the royalties and some of the things and all of that. But when you get on the investor side, it is a powerful thing. It's no different than a website where somebody comes to that website and that person is getting monetized, whether it's with their eyeballs, seeing an ad, whether it's them clicking something and buying something from Amazon and getting affiliate income, whether it's buying a direct product. All of this is just attention. So for that moment, that website has that customer's attention, and their goal is to monetize it. And that's all these digital assets are really just monetizing attention. And this is just like social media, just like podcasts. The digital music is just one more form of attention, with the benefit that the monetization part of it is mature. So wanted to share that with y'all, just kind of a high level concept around the opportunity. And it's a little bit different than what I'm normally talking about with buying a business or buying internet-based businesses. But I'm happy to talk more about some of those investments if it is of interest. And just felt like after that interview, it's like, let me at least share this with the channel. All right, who are we got? Got the guap. What's up? Thank you for popping in here. Let's see. Digital music in what way? Digital or just digital? Well, it doesn't. I say digital because it's not trying to sell CDs. It's not trying to sell vinyl. It's not like we're saying, okay, music from the standpoint of we're not interested in music from the standpoint of trying to sell a show or trying to sell, like I said, physical things. So when I'm saying digital, we're just interested in what are the streams, what's the income from those streams, where is it being played online, So that's what I mean when I say digital. Now, there are some cool things that are going on when it comes to the blockchain in music. And again, like even that is just very, very new. There've been a couple of folks, it's nerdy stuff and into the weeds, but I guess the high level concept there is that someone could sell their CD on a blockchain, know that person isn't sharing it with someone else, and it could help with copyright and those kinds of things. So that is very interesting for the future. But yes, that's the difference there, is that we're talking digital specifically, not just like we're not interested in, it's weird to say, but we're really not even interested in the artists. It's just a numbers game. It's like the artists, what they've done, none of that stuff really matters. All right, Martin Edwards, what's up? Thanks for popping on. He asks, how do you protect yourself against risks? This is important. For instance, with cancel culture, if artists does something to stop streams, how is the initial investment recouped? So there are a couple of things that you want to do, and it's so funny. For us, it's just second nature because you want to, oh no, my power just blinked. There's a crazy storm. I wonder, let me know that I'm still connected real quick before I answer this whole thing, and then just pop in a quick comment and let me know. Looks like I am. Perfect, awesome. All right, so for us, it's second nature. It's the same as a deal. When we're looking at a deal, there are all kinds of risks that exist. The interesting thing is that there's actually fewer tangible risks when it comes to these, but that is a very big one. Is, with cancel culture, the person does something wrong. But the first thing that, even for businesses, and this applies for you folks that are like, what, why, why are we talking about music here? I'm here to learn about by businesses. So, I'll give the examples, whether it's a business or whatever. The first thing you're looking at is almost like a actuary or a statistician. You would want to figure out, what are the odds of that? Because even when it comes to businesses, when I'm working with clients, they'll come up with the most outrageous scenarios. And it's like, well, this is a possibility. It's like, yes, that 100% is a possibility, but the possibility is like 1 in 2 billion or whatever the case, or whatever, even if it's 1 in 1,000, whatever. So I think that, the first part is understanding statistically how many artists are out there, how many are really canceled. And it's very, very, very small when it comes to the risk. The other part is the deal structure. So whenever we're doing any deal, if it's a business, if it's a social media platform, or whatever the case is, you're buying that, and you're basically negotiating terms. And those terms are going to include several things. It'll include, hey, it needs to maintain this milestone in order to have some downside protection. You can even structure where there's an earn out, so that the earnings that you're getting, they're getting paid out for the rest. So you have a minimum amount of upfront risk. And then the other, there's honestly just a whole list of things that we have an 82-point process that we use when we're buying businesses, and we're basically kind of taking those SOPs and applying them here. But the last one I'll mention for now is when it comes to your deal structure, you are in control. The deal maker is in control of what risk that you're able to take. And so you combine that with diversification, and you should be lowering the risk tremendously. I think one of the final things that I'll say here that makes a big difference is we've seen the risk increase when it comes to internet businesses because of competition. And so if you come up with a deal structure that does protect you, and there are 20 other people that are willing to not have the restrictions that protect them, you're out of that deal. Oh man, what? Is that real? Sam, I did not, wait a minute, the former CEO? I'm sorry, guys. I got totally distracted by this comment. Sam, how did I not hear about that? Yeah, goodness gracious. That is very, very sad, man. Tony Hsieh passed away yesterday, who is definitely a hero of mine, as Sam here knows. And yeah, that is really, really sad news. Sorry about that, Martin. We got distracted, but I'm glad that answer, you're very welcome. I'm glad that answer was valuable for you. Yes, that is really sad news, Sam. Sam, I'm sorry, I hadn't even read and I know this is going to different platforms, so not everybody can read your comment. But he says, totally off topic, the former CEO of Zappos passed away yesterday. As CEO, who are the CEOs you look up to, and how have their lifestyles influenced your choice to be remote and travel while CEO? So yeah, man, that just sucks. That dude was a really, really great guy. So for me, there's so many CEOs that I look up to, but then there are also just people that I've met, and just get to know, probably the biggest one is my mentor that I talk a lot about, Mike Aiken. He's somebody who, was just well traveled. At that time, I really hadn't been I hadn't been out of Chattanooga really, besides college. And didn't have as much of a curiosity and all that. But one of the things that I admired, and it's one of the things I admire about Warren Buffett as well, he would be high up on that list, is having a high level of leverage. And whatever your situation is, getting into businesses that have tremendous leverage. And so Mike was in $100 million business, and it was I go in his office, you expect it was like crazy and lots of people and blah, blah, blah. And it was him and 2 secretaries. And it was like chill and calm, and he would travel in and out. And I'm like, man, like that's really crazy. Warren Buffett, the same way, quickly on the path to $1 trillion company. And they've got 40 employees. And you compare that with some businesses that are $500 million companies that have thousands and thousands of employees. And so that would be probably the number one thing that I like and respect, is I like to be in businesses where there is a tremendous amount of leverage, and what leverage leads to create the lifestyle that so Warren doesn't have to move to Wall Street and live in New York to do his thing, even though he has as much power as a Goldman Sachs. So that would be a big one. How's this dude not a billionaire? I'm baffled. Are you talking about me? How am I not a billionaire? I know we were talking about Tony Hsieh a second ago. Awesome, man. Well, thank y'all for popping in on this, and hopefully this was valuable. This is a little bit different. Like I said, I've been very hesitant to even bring attention to it. But, it's funny. I felt that way 20 years ago when it came to buying some business. And it took a decade before other gurus and everybody started talking about it. So, this will probably be the same way. And I'm sure there's some people that watch this like, dude, what is going on? Why are we talking about music? Thanks so much. Hope everyone had an amazing Thanksgiving. Give this video a like as you pop out, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.